All right, this is video number 2. I'm trying to get this to work. Here we go. So if we look at water balance, it's pretty simple. If you are losing more water than you're taking in, and you are not at what we would consider like an equilibrium or a balance, and there's a way to determine that. I'll just spit it out. It's usually your urine color. That's a very good indicator because it's free. You don't have to go to the doctor. You don't have to do a hematocrit or any fancy kind of thing. If your urine color is pale yellow, and you're probably well hydrated. If it's a lot darker, you could be dehydrated. It is possible to be overhydrated or hyperhydrated. It's not that you're carrying gallons extra, but you probably have a little extra fluid that you're going to need to pee off. And for marathoners, they generally do show up at an event hyperhydrated, and will be prepared to pee when they get there, or if there's a place to pee while they're running or somewhere else. I'll leave it at that. So if you are dehydrated, for the vast majority of folks on the planet, you can be dehydrated and not know it. Thirst usually shows up after you've lost, what is that? Yeah, I used to say 1%. So it's about 3% of your weight lost, your body weight lost as fluid. You don't want to wait until you're thirsty. So at the thirst response, you already have reduced performance. You already have reduced performance. The old adage was in the military long ago when I was a young kid was, if you're thirsty, drink your entire canteen of water. That's 1 liter. And think about refilling it as quickly as possible. But you don't want to get to thirsty. You want to prevent that. Your inability to perform should be because, let's be honest, you just don't have the genetics, or you didn't train properly. It shouldn't be because you made a mistake on carbs or fluid. Don't get to thirst. And you walk your way down this list, it gets pretty dire. Hopefully none of these things will happen to you. This is actually a very good chart. So when a patient is a heat patient, they fall within kind of 3 categories: heat cramps, heat exhaustion, and heat stroke. Heat stroke is scary. Call 911. I've only seen 1 person in my entire time in the military develop heat stroke. I know for a fact that soldier was medevaced from the Gulf, so from the Persian Gulf, to Germany, and then they had to leave the army. They had permanent brain damage. Scary stuff. These are the 2 where athletes and most folks get themselves into. Heat cramps is basically you're cramping up because a couple things. You have sweated out too much. You sweated out so much. You perspired out too much fluid or salt. So sodium deficiency can also cause heat cramps. That's why we like slightly salty foods, right? When you're exercising, especially like in cycling and things like that. Or you just have lost too much fluid. When you get into heat exhaustion, that's where people they can stop sweating. They can have they can feel weird. They can feel out of touch with reality. That's a person that, do you need to call 911? I don't know. If it gets that bad, that's probably someone needs to make that call, but they need to stop what they're doing, consume fluid, and if they can nibble on something salty like a cracker or salty jelly beans or something like that, that would be very helpful. So because salt kind of helps you keep fluid in the body. Sometimes giving more and more fluid, just clear water, can also be a little bit dangerous. Okay, hyperhydration. Again, many athletes will show up at a marathon ready to go pee. The concern for overhydration, that's not really the same as hyperhydration. If you're consuming a ton of water, but you're not consuming any sodium, so there's no snacks going on at all, you're basically filling yourself up with fluid and sweating out a ton of fluid, and you're pulling sodium out of the body. So you can cause hyponatremia, low blood sodium. That can cause cramping, If you don't stop what you're doing and try to treat it, you can get into trouble. People can die from this stuff. Hyponatremia affects muscles like your legs, but your heart's also a muscle. So when you look at a lot of the replacement products out there, they always have some level of sodium in them. Always. Potassium, hit or miss. Sodium, always. How salty it will be depends on the product you're buying, but they usually have some level of sodium in them. Okay, how do you know your status? Are you really going to go and take a blood draw during a marathon or a soccer match? Heck no. You're going to look at your urine. during halftime in basketball, during halftime, if you have to pee before you need to play, which maybe hopefully you do have to pee before you need to play because you have enough fluid in you that it's okay to pee. You want to have a pale yellow urine. Many years ago, we did a tour of Utah. We did the Grand Circle, Zion, Arches, Moab, whatever. I remember coming back and my urine was way down here, like not good. And I had been drinking fluid all day. It was just so hot and dry. I just probably couldn't even hydrate enough if I tried. Scary, honestly, scary. So, the best thing to do is monitor your urine before, during, and after you work out. And by the way, the after is important because you might want to think about how much fluid do you need, how much fluid works for you while you're working out, and then what's going to be work for you for recovery. Yes, they have these charts. The average human being is not walking around with a measuring cup and with a stopwatch and are drinking like this. You're doing this hit or miss. You're getting a feel for it. How much should I be drinking? What did I do last time? And you're developing like some tendencies. Remember, in sports, when it comes to like athletic events, no surprises, no dietary surprises, no training surprises, no fluid surprises, unless you're trying to titrate. You're trying to figure out, okay, I wasn't quite hydrated last time. I'll start to up my fluid intake. And they have all these calculations. Look at this one: 2 to 3 cups for every pound lost during your workout or your practice or your match. Do you weigh yourself before you work out, or a soccer game, or you go running, and do you weigh yourself after? Most people don't. It would be ideal if you did. Wrestlers, by the way, have this advantage. There's always a scale somewhere. And there's ways to start thinking about mathematically how to rehydrate myself back. Okay, I'm going to end on that.